Making music for me is something I got into very, very early in my life, and it became something that I was so passionate about. It was such a private thing. It was such an intimate process for me. Everything that I saw, I kind of like collected and memorized all the time, and I stayed in my room and I created music, and you know, I would be in a conversation with somebody and then they lost me. I would be listening to something completely different sometimes. I would be spacing out constantly. My life was a big space out, and it still is. But in a very beautiful and magical way. And I just realized recently that I still do that. I'll play you a few things just from my phone.
Melody idea, I'm a little bit sick.
So this is something that I just sang to myself in bed when I was sick. I had a melody in my mind.
I like it very much.
And this is what it ended up being. So this thing started as something so tiny and so small, and then it could end up being something so epic and so beautiful, string sections and stuff like that. This is Saturday morning, intimate moment that I captured, again, not knowing it's a song.
What is inspiration?
If you could describe a moment, any moment, describing the beauty that you see, the way the light drops on something, you can describe it if you see it.
I wanted to capture that moment. I wanted to keep it in my heart somewhere. And the beautiful thing is that I can present it to others.
You can describe it if you see it.
That's a song that came out of that Saturday morning. So what I realized and what I showed you now is the beginning of how a song comes to existence, and all the way at the end, that it becomes a full-blown production. But in between those two dots, that range is where life happens. And it's not the final product that I was so much interested in. I realized that when I release music, I put a flattened version of my song out there on iTunes. Audio players today don't give us the opportunity to show the magic that happens between the inception and the completion. We only have the final result. And what I found for me is that there's a non-curated version of myself leading up to a finished product. There's risk. There's an open heart, there's documentation, there's experimentation. When you make an album, your radar is open generally. Every conversation is potential lyrics, and every subway musician is a potential collaborator, and everything becomes input. So I wanted to, I guess, design a multi-dimensional player that will allow me to show all the layers behind the making of a song. Something that I call the DNA project. These are all those moments I talked about. Audio, video, unbaked thoughts, demos. This is my album. This is a track list. This whole website was empty when I started, but every milestone happened when I bumped into an inspiration, when I had an idea, when I had a demo. And the timeline goes from left to right, and it just filled up as I created the album. So I'm gonna run you through song number 1. That was the first song that I made on this project. So this is the first milestone.
Well, what's free to you?
What's free to me?
Yeah.
Same thing it is to you. You tell me.
No, you tell me. No.
I've had a couple of times on stage when I really felt free. And that's something else. That's really something else. Like I'll tell you what freedom is to me. No fear. I mean, really, no fear.
So that's Nina Simone, obviously, in an interview that I bumped into, beautifully articulating what is freedom, so simply, no fear. And that got stuck in my head, and I didn't even know that there's a song in there. But I put it on the website, and I said, this is something amazing that affected me at that period, especially going into this risky project. And the line I had in my head was, "We moved like we're not afraid." I saw that video, and that night I also went to a bar and I danced with this girl who moved like she's not afraid, and she made me move like an idiot, and I was not afraid. And I married her eventually, but the dots connected in my head in a way that, wow, Nina Simone talked about that, that happened to me. We moved like we're not afraid. That was a phrase, you know, that was connected to absolutely nothing. This is the next thing that happened. It's a demo. I bought a Krumar synthesizer, a vintage synthesizer, and I started to play with it, just made a beat. Has nothing to do with Nina Simone. So the cool thing that happened here is that I let people download my files, and people started to make their own songs. So I was on my way to my song, just started it, and people already started to make their own songs with my sound. So it was a little bit of like an open source music at that point. And then I continued on my journey with that song, and I went to France.
I think I'm done with the lyrics. You said, who do you make mistakes with? I forget, I know how to dance.
Basically, I'm starting to sing here and have lyrics, and then I realized, oh my God, that has a lot to do with Nina Simone, the concept of no fear. And I made all those lyrics on the beat that you heard a minute ago. And then I had an idea for the chorus. This day.
Riding with you. We move like we're not afraid, like we're not afraid.
We moved like we're not afraid. That was the first time that it started to happen.
Like we're not afraid, like we're not afraid.
Just an idea.
We move like we're not afraid, like we're not afraid.
So now the dots started to connect to me. Next thing that happened is that I went down the subway. This amazing vocalist.
Living in line, looking behind. You could kill yourself. We in the mood, living the hell of being someone.
This is
no
Benja.
one else.
Met him at the subway.
Maybe I'm in a good
Missed my
time.
train listening to him.
The heaping ocean that freaks my mind. It
Played him the
really
song I'm
helps
working
with
on.
the
We went to the studio to
freeze
try his voice on
time.
it.
Slow-mo.
Into her? Yeah. I benchified that for a second.
You benchified it?
Yeah.
Drew you
So basically now it started to sound like a song.
Break 'em right. We're not afraid.
That's the first time that it started to
We
happen.
move like we're not afraid. We're not afraid.
Now we started to have a song.
We move like we're not afraid. We're not afraid.
And there's a lot more in this update, but I'm just gonna go forward with this. So a lot of things happen in the DNA of this song, and when I reached completion of this, the play button emerged, and there was a song, and that's the first song that was kind of like my vision that I saw.
Glorious heartbreak.
It's a song with a DNA that you can access.
We move like we're not afraid. We're not afraid.
This is Benja from the Subway singing, and these are the lyrics that were inspired by Nina Simone that I crafted in France, and so many things started to kind of like fall into place. I had my multi-dimensional music player that I always wanted. All of a sudden, I don't need to just play a final song. I could actually show all those beautiful moments that happen when you create an album. So one thing that happened after that is I asked people to move like they're not afraid so I can make a music video. This is still in the making. Sharing the process made so many people send me their dances of themselves moving like they're not afraid.
We move like we're not afraid. We're not afraid. We move like we're not afraid. We're not afraid.
There was not a single session working on this video that I was not crying just seeing this. This is an animation test, so you see what we're gonna do with this fan footage. This is what it's gonna look like. This iPhone footage that we got from them. This is basically the result of sharing a process, basically. For me, it was so amazing to see that I can let go and share something that is kind of vulnerable and kind of like unbaked and maybe not good, and I allowed myself to make mistakes on the way, and those things happen. Lastly, there is this update on song number 4. I went to Woodstock. I got stuck in a cabin with no electricity, and there's no electronic music with no electricity. Started to record Ice. And this website is live, by the way. One thing that happened that day is that I found this book.
Beautiful book, The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. Ooh, this spark, trusting what you don't know and going for it. Trusting what you don't know.
And that sentence, trusting what you don't know and going for it, it was like a punch in the stomach for me. And little did I know it, that when I shared this episode or thing on the way to that song I was working on, somebody else was doing something else because of that. And I got a note 2 months later from this person, Philip, who saw this and went on he built a motorcycle and he went on a 10,000 mile journey inspired by that quote.
Ooh, this spark.
So I was working on my song and he was working on that, and I didn't even know that.
And going for it.
So this is his journey. If you remember when I played you the voice memos, this is how this song started. You can turn it up. Maybe to change the melody at the end, because right now it's something else. Maybe nobody will ever hear what it is now. Okay. So I'm just finalizing this project, and the whole thing is going to become this interactive album, and I'm going to call the album 401 Days, which is a period that it took me to create the album. And all those results of people that are kind of like reflecting to me what I gave them, and they're giving me that sense of freedom in return, because it was hard for me to put my heart on the table, but when I did, they did the same. And that notion, trusting what you don't know and going for it, is that thing that I took away from all this project. And that's my story, 401 days. Thank you. Thanks for being with us.